Well, here in Killarney, Kerry have breezed to an 83rd provincial crown, beating Limerick 128 to 8 points in the Munster Final. Sean O'Sullivan, four-time All-Ireland winner with Kerry. Pretty standard stuff, wasn't it?
Pretty standard stuff, Oisin. Yeah, run-of-the-mill stuff for Kerry, really. Look, they didn't have to go through the gears at all, really, to get over Limerick today. And look, we knew, and the spectators knew coming in, that, look, it was probably going to be that case for Kerry. They would just have too much on the day. Limerick huffed and puffed for the first maybe 5-10 minutes and stayed in the game as much as possible. They didn't help themselves with their kick-out strategy. I mentioned in our live reports Donal O'Sullivan's kick-outs, whether, look, this is something that he was supposed to do or maybe just the occasion got to him. Seemed to go short with a lot of kick-outs early on, when maybe the better option was to get the ball as far away from his goals as possible. Kerry copped onto that fairly quick, pushed up, squeezed up, intercepted a lot of balls and got scores from it. So that didn't help an underdog. When you're coming into a game like that, Oisin, and you're an underdog, those things need to be tidied up. You need to keep your hands on the ball for as long as possible. Kerry grew into the game very slowly, as we said in commentary. Didn't need to do anything brilliant, didn't have to do anything spectacular. Kept the scoreboard ticking over, and eventually ran out really, really easy winners.
I spoke to Jack O'Connor after the game. You can catch up on that interview, by the way, via Off the Ball social media channels. He was pleased that all of the starting forwards got scores. He was especially pleased, I think, that Killian Ryan got 1-3. He delivered today, didn't he?
Absolutely, and we mentioned as well in commentary of who was going to step up today in the absence of David Clifford. I mean, there are places up for grabs in this Kerry team. You know, people are kind of talking around the county that it's a settled 15. There's places up for grabs, and today Jack gave opportunity to, he obviously took out Adrian Spillane, he gave Killian Spillane a go. Obviously with David coming out, he gave Paul Ganey a go at full forward. We know what Paul can do, there's no question there. It was a day for Killian to really step up, and by God he did. 1-3 from play, his goal expertly taken after a great move straight from Shane Ryan down the field, great goal. But even his points in the first half, particular, Oisin, he's a class operator. And I mentioned you when he got his first one, he's a real confidence player, Killian. When he split the post for that first score, I knew he was in for a good day, and it proved so. Tony Brosnan inside, maybe is, you know, kind of a poor enough first half. We mentioned it at half time. He came out in a withdrawn role actually in the second half, which was quite interesting. He kind of pulled out around midfield and he was spraying passes and ended up getting a couple.
Did that suit him better? Is that where you see him from here on in?
I think it did. Tony is he's a kind of a street baller. He's a real skillful player. He's very good on the ball. Great score taker. He's one of the...
A bit like when they moved Gooch back to 11, wasn't it?
A little bit, yeah. You know, it's guys like that. It's interesting, actually. Guys like that who play all their football in at 13 or 15. When you move them out the field, the big advantage they have is they know what type of ball the guy inside wants because they've played so long in there. So when Tony came out, he was playing lovely ball into the likes of Paul Ganey, Killian himself. But then he pegged on his own couple of scores as well because he was getting on the end of moves, and he's a great kicker. So look, Jack will be delighted with the forwards. I mean, any day you kick 128 was it at the end of the day, that's great kicking regardless of the opposition. But we have to take it into account that, you know, the opposition were poor and Kerry will face a lot stiffer test down the line.
It's a big gap for Kerry to the next game. It is a gap that they've handled in the past. It's a gap that Dublin, coming out of a weak Leinster Championship, have handled well in the recent past. What do you think they'll do? Will they try and get challenge games like they did a couple of weeks ago? Will they just play very hot and heavy internal games? How will they handle it? How will they get up to the pitch of it for the quarter-final, which is knockout?
It'll have to come from within, Oisin. Challenge games, I'm not sure who they would actually get in a challenge game now at this stage of the season, who would be willing to play a Kerry with the teams left. You know, you're not going to get a qualifier team and you're not going to get a provincial winner, let's face it. So it's going to have to come really, really hot and heavy, as you said, from inside in training, in here in Fitzgerald Stadium or over in the Centre of Excellence in Kearns, wherever their sessions are. And that comes from setting the standards inside in training themselves, driving each other on. There's no point in us talking about, oh, Kerry will have no test, they got no test against Limerick, they'll have no test for a couple of weeks. It's out of their control. You control the controllables in here at training. You drive the standards, you tear into each other, you keep the intensity of the training up. You hopefully avoid injuries. That's a massive thing. You know, it's fine to say let's ramp up the intensity. That can lead to injuries. Keep a fully fit squad. You go into an All-Ireland quarter final. Of course you're going to be playing a team that's coming in through the qualifiers. You've got to face the challenge head on.
And of course David Clifford, we expect, will be back for the quarter-final. Jack O'Connor said that in his interview. Just before I let you go, a word on Limerick. Yes, they took a pasting today, but I spoke to Billy Lee, their manager. He said, look, we have to learn from this, and sometimes you have to take a beating to learn. I suppose on the week that Ray Liotta passed away, his famous line from Goodfellas was, everyone's got to take a beating. Limerick certainly did today, but Cian Sheehan played well, 3 points from play. Ian Corbett played well. Josh Ryan, despite the fact that he looked like he was carrying a knock, played well. So there were positives.
Very, very much so. A lot of positives for Limerick. And look, as we keep saying, Billy Lee and his Limerick setup, his Limerick team were in bonus territory today, Oisin. They were never going to win today. Could they have put up more of a fight, more of a battle? Possibly, but they never threw in the towel. Cian Sheehan was excellent from wing back. Ian Corbett, the two Newcastle Westmen, excellent. Never threw in the towel, kept going. They will face into the qualifiers. The biggest thing for Limerick now is to realise, guys, we came down to Killarney. Yes, we took a bad beating, but we were up against a top quality team. We were up against possibly the favourites for the All-Ireland. Let's take the positives. Let's work on the little things that didn't work, particularly our kick-out strategy, and let's see what comes in the qualifiers. Who knows? They could get a draw in the qualifier that might suit them, and it could take them to maybe back into an All-Ireland quarter-final. They're in bonus territory after a fantastic year. I wouldn't let their year rest on today. It just wasn't to be. They came up against a good, very, very good Kerry team. On they go back to training and try and right the wrongs from today.
Sean, I know you're eager to get away and watch the rest of Dublin and Kildare, and of course settle yourself in for the Champions League final. Sean O'Sullivan, 4-time All-Ireland winner with Kerry, thank you very much for joining us. I referenced the interviews that I did with Billy Lee, the Limerick manager, and Jack O'Connor, the Kerry manager there. You can catch up with those on the Off the Ball social media channels, and you can catch up with all the reaction to all the GA and everything else this weekend. From Killarney for now, goodbye.